Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, dig into them, and basically pull out all the key stuff so you're instantly up to speed. Today we're diving headfirst, really, into a huge global name. Starbucks. How do they get so successful and stay successful?
Yeah, and we're working from a script you sent in from the Behind the Brand Moves podcast, episode 2, which specifically looks at Starbucks' brand strategies.
Exactly. And what's great about this source, I think, is it gives us that peek behind the curtain.
Right. It's not just guesswork. It looks at the deliberate thinking, the strategic moves that shape how we see them today. Goes way beyond just, oh, people like their coffee.
Totally.
Yeah.
So our mission here isn't just to state the obvious, yeah, Starbucks is big. We want to unpack the how. What were those core strategies that let them build this whole global coffee culture? What made them more than just a place to grab caffeine? Have you ever felt that? Like a Starbucks run is somehow more than just getting a drink.
Oh, definitely. And the script jumps right into that, actually. This idea that Starbucks isn't, well, they're not really just selling coffee, are they?
Yeah. That's the core of it, isn't it? Selling something else.
The beverage is almost like the excuse, the Trojan horse for something much bigger they're offering.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Selling more than coffee. The script talks about the third place idea. What's the real strategic power behind that concept?
Well, the genius of the third place, I think, is that it taps into this really basic human need, right? We need places that aren't just home and aren't just work.
Right, somewhere else to exist.
Exactly. To think, to meet up, maybe just to breathe for a minute. And Starbucks deliberately engineered their shops to be that place.
Engineered how, though?
Think about it. The comfy chairs, not hard plastic ones. The Wi-Fi being readily available. Even the music they play. None of that is accidental. It's all calculated, really, to make you want to stay a while. To work there, meet a friend, or just escape. It stops them being just another coffee counter you rush in and out of.
That's so true, isn't it? You see people camped out for hours sometimes. It's become this default space. And, okay, the podcast script also mentions personalization. Writing names on cups. Seems almost minor. Does that really move the needle for a giant company like this?
It sounds small, but I think it's deceptively powerful. That little act, writing your name, it gives you a flicker of individual recognition inside this massive global machine.
Okay.
It makes the interaction feel maybe slightly more personal. And, like the script points out, even when they get the name wrong.
Oh, yeah, the infamous misspellings.
Right. It sounds counterintuitive, but that injects a bit of humanness, imperfection. It makes it less robotic. It can even become this sort of shared joke, weirdly strengthening the connection.
Huh. Never thought of it like that. Like a little glitch in the matrix that makes it feel more real. Okay, and then there's their sheer size. Operating globally.
Yeah, over 80 countries. It's massive.
How do they keep that core Starbucks-ness, but also, work in all these incredibly different places?
That's a really tricky balancing act. And look, they haven't always gotten it perfect, but mostly they've navigated it pretty well. They have this strong, consistent core brand. The look, the feel, the general vibe.
The green logo everywhere.
Exactly. That's recognizable anywhere. But then they smartly weave in local tastes, like the script mentions, green tea lattes in Japan, masala chai in India.
Right.
These aren't just random additions. It shows they're actually paying attention, respecting local culture a bit. It stops it feeling like just this purely American thing being pushed everywhere.
So it's global, but with local flavor. Okay, so we've got more than coffee, this third place vibe, the personal touch, and this global local balance.
Pretty much. That's the foundation of the experience.
All right. Now let's dig into the branding psychology. The script talks a lot about their pricing. They charge quite a bit more than your average local coffee shop, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Significantly more, often.
So how have they convinced millions of people globally that it's worth paying that premium?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting psychologically. They've very carefully built this aspirational image.
Aspirational? Like fancy coffee?
Sort of. By charging more, they signal quality, sure, but also status. It feels like a little treat, maybe an act of self-indulgence. And psychologically, people often feel good about spending that bit extra. It connects them to this brand they see as desirable, as premium. It's not just about the caffeine hit. It's about the feeling you get buying into it.
You feel like you're treating yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes that higher price point even makes cheaper options seem less good. It's called price anchoring.
So you're almost buying into an identity just by carrying that cup.
In a way, yes. And speaking of the cup, that iconic green and white, the script really hammers home the importance of visual consistency. Why is that so crucial when you're that big?
Yeah, why does the exact shade of green matter so much?
Think about how much visual noise we deal with every day. Just constant information overload. In that chaos, consistency is like a shortcut for our brains. That specific green, the siren logo, the fonts they use, it's all meticulously the same everywhere.
Okay.
That creates familiarity. It builds trust subconsciously. You see it across the street in Tokyo or London or Buenos Aires, and bam, you instantly know what it is, what to expect. It builds that brand memory incredibly effectively.
Like a visual password. You don't even need the name sometimes.
Exactly. And the podcast also points out their marketing, how it focuses more on feelings, experiences, rather than just, our coffee beans are great.
Right. Less about the features, more about the vibe.
Precisely. That's a really smart move. Instead of just talking bean origins or brew methods, which they do sometimes, but it's not the main thrust, their ads, their messaging, it centers on the moments their brand enables.
The people connecting.
Yeah, people connecting over coffee or someone having a quiet moment of reflection in a Starbucks. They're selling connection, comfort, maybe a little pause in a busy day, not just caffeine. That makes the brand feel more woven into people's actual lives, their feelings, their aspirations. It's storytelling, not just product specs.
It's crafting the narrative around the coffee.
Ah.
Okay, this is fascinating. We've looked at what they do, the psychology behind it. Now, the big question. How can people listening take these ideas, these strategies, and actually use them in their own work, their own projects?
Yeah, this is the really practical part, isn't it? And the podcast script gives us some good starting points. First off, craft a signature experience.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Beyond just having a good product.
It means thinking about the entire ritual around whatever you offer. What happens before someone buys or uses your thing? What happens after?
A whole journey.
Right. Can you make those other touch points better? More sensory, maybe, more emotional, more consistent with the feeling you want people to have. If you run a service, say, what's the booking process like? The follow-up. Can those be part of the positive experience?
So make every interaction intentional, not just the main event. Okay, makes sense. What else?
Second point, build familiarity through consistency. Sounds basic, maybe?
Yeah, like have a logo.
Well, yes, but it's more than that. It's the colors you always use. The tone of voice in your emails or your social media. Is it consistent? The quality people expect, is it reliably there? People trust what feels familiar and reliable. It makes you look professional, dependable. It reinforces who you are again and again, so people recognize and trust you faster.
Right, builds that mental shortcut we talked about. Okay, and the third application point.
This one ties back to the aspirational thing. Speak to identity, not just utility.
Okay, explain that more.
Think about Starbucks again. They don't just say, need caffeine, buy this.
Right.
They subtly suggest, you're the kind of person who values good taste, a nice atmosphere, a moment of calm. Their brand reflects a certain identity.
Ah, so it's about what your brand says about your customer.
Exactly. What does your product, your service, your whole brand experience communicate about the people who choose you? What do they care about? What do they aspire to? Connect with that, not just their need for whatever widget you sell.
That's a much deeper way to think about branding.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. If we boil it all down from this deep dive, drawing on that podcast script, what's the core takeaway about Starbucks's massive success?
I think ultimately it shows that building something truly huge and lasting, it's rarely just about the product itself, especially if it's kind of a commodity like coffee. Their genius, really, was understanding these deeper human needs for connection, for comfort, for feeling good about ourselves, that little bit of aspiration. And they built an entire experience around a simple drink to deliver on those needs.
Yeah.
They use smart psychology, consistent branding, and that careful global local mix. It's a masterclass, really, in building a meaningful connection with people. Lots to learn there for anyone trying to build, well, anything.
Absolutely fascinating stuff. Okay, so considering how Starbucks managed to weave this whole lifestyle, this whole set of feelings around something as basic as a cup of coffee, here's something to think about. What's something seemingly ordinary in your life or maybe in your work that actually holds the potential to become a much more meaningful, more engaging experience? Not just for you, but maybe for others too. Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.